OKC SQL. This is following. We had a share last night. All right, so I'm Kristin Ferrier. I am excited to be here at OKC.js meeting. I'm pretty active in the Techlahoma community. I'm more often seen at OKC SQL and she codes. Really excited to be speaking on SQL to JSON here. Just real quick about me, I am a freelance software developer here in Oklahoma City. I am owner and lead developer for Ferrier Solutions based out of here in Starspace. And I am really active on Twitter, so if you want to reach out to me at SQL Energy, or if you are on the Techlahoma Slack community, I'm Energy Dev there. If you want to see some of my code, it's GitHub. Before I start talking about JSON and SQL, who here has done something with JSON at some point? Like you've seen JSON? About 2/3? Okay, who's done something with SQL in some way? Okay, actually more people, awesome. So we're gonna talk about some overlap between SQL and JSON, and this is like a really quick, like 5-minute, max 10 minutes talk that we have here. So basically, JSON is data at a really high level. It's basically data. And it's data in the form of a JavaScript object with some stricter rules, like a string must be enclosed in quotation marks. So it's officially JavaScript object notation, and it's officially a data exchange format, but really it's data in the form of a JavaScript object. It's super common in web development, or even if you're doing something like Dialogflow for Google Home Mini. Once it figures out what you're asking, it puts the data into JSON, sends it to a webhook. The webhook then sends data back in JSON and telling it what the Google Home Mini should say. So JSON is everywhere. So if you're new to JSON or you're scared of JSON, it's basically data in the form of a JavaScript object. And here's an example of what it looks like. Just a couple of quotes that we have here. Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. Or from the librarians franchise, Cassandra, Mathemagics. I like it. So there are a lot of different database providers that are starting to provide built-in functionality related to JSON. So one of those is actually Microsoft SQL Server. So starting in SQL Server 2016 and beyond, there's actually quite a bit of built-in JSON functionality that you have. One of them is the for JSON statement that can automatically generate JSON for you. So you've got the for JSON auto statement, which will default the JSON structure for you, and the for JSON path, which will customize the JSON structure for you. And we're going to take a look at a couple of examples of those. So here's the demo. We're going to do this in SQL Fiddle. So one of the advantages of SQL Fiddle is even if you have no experience with SQL Server and you don't want to install SQL Server on your machine, you can just go to SQL Fiddle. You can actually go to this link itself and play around with this demo. There's also a JS Fiddle if you want to play around with JavaScript. So we've basically got a character table and a franchise table and a quotes table where we've got some data. And if we run the first SQL statement just to see what the data looks like in a SQL format, just say run SQL, you can see your quotes come back. So if you want this in a JSON format, the first thing you can do is just say for JSON auto, run the SQL, and it brought it back to you in JSON format. Now, if you want to see what the actual levels are, actually put that into a file here where you can see we've got 2 quotes, and then we've got a franchise, and then inside that we have a character. And that's because we've got a quotes table and a franchise table and a character table. Well, maybe you want it to all be at the same level. Maybe you don't want it to be multi-level. So that's really easy to fix. Go to SQL Fiddle. And go just say for JSON path, and since we don't have any aliasing, it's going to just flatten it out for us. And the example that we have that shows the leveling is right here. So everything's at the flat level. Super easy. Now, you can customize your own structure as well. One of the ways you can do that with is aliasing. If you alias something as info.franchise name and info.character name, you now have an info level. You can also add a roots level. In the very bottom one here. It's basically the same query, but it's for JSON path root quotes. Run your SQL. And then you can see an example of that here. Now the exact same thing, but everything's named at quotes at the top. That's basically at a really, really simple level what the for JSON statement is. Now, Microsoft has added in quite a bit more functionality that's built in related to JSON, so there's actually a lot of reading of JSON data that you can do. There's actual modifying of JSON data that you can do that's built into SQL Server 2016 and beyond. They didn't add a JSON data type. You have a JSON data type in, for example, Postgres. But the reason that they say that they didn't add a JSON data type is that developers were already putting JSON text into nvarchar fields, and they didn't want those developers that were using JSON in their database prior to 2016 to have to convert the data types. And so that's basically why there isn't a JSON data type, but you can put JSON data into nvarchar columns and do a lot of really cool things with JSON with other functions that are outside the scope of this talk. But the main level of this talk was just to basically talk about the for JSON statement, really high level. You can catch up with me later on SQL Energy, Slack Energy Dev, really super basic for JSON. Any questions? Pretty straightforward. All right, thanks guys.